Now entering the awards part of the program, and welcome back. We're going to start with the Simon Rhema Founders Award presentation. That started basically 5 minutes ago, and we now turn to the presentation of these are the two oldest National Academy of Engineering honors for individual achievement: the Simon Rhema Founders Award and the Orthorhombic Award. The former Simon Rhema Founders Award recipients are here today. Are Rosina Joichi, I think she's here. Rosina, you here somewhere? And Linda Katehi, I'm not sure I saw her. Bob Neeram is here. Nick Pepis, I think I saw is here. And the Bika Award winner Wayne Clough is supposed to be here, though I haven't seen him. The Simon Rhema Founders Award honors an outstanding NAE member or foreign member who has upheld the ideals and principles of the National Academy of Engineering through professional, educational, and personal achievements. The Founders Award was renamed and endowed by the Keck Foundation in honor of the NAE founding member, in fact, the last NAE founding member, Simon Rhema, on the occasion of his 100th birthday. Asai died last year, by the way, when he was 103. The Orthorhombic Award recognizes an engineer who has been actively involved in determining U.S. science and technology policy, promoting technological development, and contributing to the enhancement of relations between industry, government, and academia. Dr. Bika was a senior vice president for corporate technology at General Electric and a member of the NAE Council who spoke out for advancement of technology. I'm very pleased to recognize a most faithful daughter, Tina Bika. Tina, are you here? Oh, please stand up so everybody can see you. Tina Bika. Thank you very much. She is here today, as always, basically this award is dedicated to her father and his career. I thank the 2017 Awards Committee for its work in carrying out these important award selection responsibilities. The committee chair, Andre Broder, is a distinguished scientist at Google, will present the awards. Dr. Broder will please come to the stage, and I'm inviting Gordon England and Deborah Young to the stage as well. And we will sit, and Andre, you will talk. All right. Thank you very much. So Parker.
First, I would like to thank the 2017 award committee members who are here today for their very dedicated work on the committee. And now it gives me great pleasure to present the Simon Rhema Founders Award to Dr. John Hopcroft for his pioneering work in computer science. Dr. Hopcroft is an IBM Professor of Engineering and Applied Mathematics in Computer Science at Cornell University and a member of NAE Section 5. He is among the most influential computer scientists in the field and has had a substantial impact in research, teaching, and service. His research demonstrated the importance of evaluating algorithms by their performance and produce efficient algorithms for many classic computer science problems. His textbook educated a generation of students who are now leaders in the field, and his service on many national committees resulted in policies that advance computer science as a discipline. And on a personal note, I must say that as an undergraduate, some 40-plus years ago, John's textbook made me fall in love with computers and algorithms. I am delighted to bestow the Simon Rhema Founders Award on Dr. John Hopcroft. John, please come to the stage.
I wish to thank all of those who have helped me in my career, especially my teachers in elementary school, high school, college. Many had a profound impact on my life, and that is why I became an academic. I wanted to have a similar impact on the next generation of talent. I'd also like to thank my PhD students who worked with me and helped me build my career. But I wish to acknowledge and thank those individuals who created journals where we publish, funding agencies where we seek support, and the founders of NAE who elevated the engineering discipline. We often forget the work of others have done to create the world that we enjoy. The many who did not get recognized with awards, but whose work is really vital. I love teaching. I still teach full-time at Cornell, but also have become involved in other activities. In our lives, our goals change. Later, we seek other goals, such as making the world better for a significant number of other people. And what I would like to do is briefly describe two activities that have captured me lately. The first involves early childhood development. When a child is born, the neurons are present in the brain, but not the wiring. Most of the wiring is formed in the first 3 years, but I understand that some of it is still being formed 20 years later. But now imagine two children, one born in an upper-class, stable family, and another born in an inner city to a single mother who's on drugs, and it's completely chaotic. Surely the wiring for that child, these two children, is not going to be the same. If we provided high-quality early childhood programs in inner cities, would we get our money back 30 years later with less mental problems, less crime, and more productive citizens? Exploring the existing science on this issue and making it public could have a major impact on our society. The first step is I discuss this with annual reviews, and they are now working on publishing a review which will contain some of the research needed to educate the public, which in turn will raise awareness that could lead to new approaches to aid development. It's the kind of problem that you're not going to solve completely, but I think that we can do and make major steps in making progress. The second activity that I enjoy involves improving higher education in China. In the last 20 years, the number of students in universities there grew from 6 million to 20 million. And the government had to focus on increasing capacities. They were concerned about stability of the country if there weren't enough universities for parents to children to get a university education. It turns out that the number of faculty grew from 300,000 to 1 million. And now they've met the capacity argument, and they're starting to focus on quality. And this is an opportunity to improve the world for tens of millions of students. I've been working in China now for 7 years and have moved up to where I've been advising the premier and recently chaired a committee for him on how to improve university education in China. And he has asked the Minister of Education to implement our report. And so we're beginning to see changes in that area. But what I would like to do is I would like to say that I appreciate the recognition of this award, but recognize that I have built on many other people's contributions. And it was their contributions that allowed me to do the things that I wanted to do and be successful. And it was their important work that enabled me to receive this reward. And so I would like to thank them and all the others who have helped me. Thank you.
I'm very pleased to announce that Dr. Lewis Lanzarote is the 2017 recipient of the Arthur Beaker Award. Dr. Lanzarote is a distinguished research professor of physics in the Center for Solar Terrestrial Research at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. He is honored today for his achievements in solving leading-edge problems in both science and engineering that have led to solutions to practical telecommunications problems, as well as enhancing scientific understanding. His primary research interests have included space plasmas, geophysics, and engineering problems related to impacts in atmospheric and space processes and the space environment on space and terrestrial technologies. Much of his research has also involved close collaboration with telecommunication service providers on commercial satellites and long-haul cables, as well as geomagnetism, solid Earth geophysics, and some oceanography. This research has been applied to the design and operation of systems associated with spacecraft and cable operations. Dr. Lanzarote is a member of the NAE Section 12 and the recipient of numerous scientific awards. He has a long history of service to the nation through various NAE and academic activities, including participation and leadership on over 50 committees, studies, or boards. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lanzarote to the stage to accept the Beaker Award. For leadership in understanding the Earth's radiation environment and its effects on communication and space hardware, and for contributions to public policy on space-based research.
The space age was less than a decade old when I was offered the opportunity to join Bell Labs after graduate school. 4 Bell Labs alums are previous recipients of the Beaker Award. I'm honored to be included among them. I thank the award committee, Chairman England, and President Moat. Bell Labs fostered a collaborative technical culture whereby a vast array of practical telecommunication problems presented challenges whose solutions often led to two scientific understandings. I soon learned that the conventional linear model view of unfettered pure research leading to applications is not the only path to beneficial outcomes for society or for a corporation. It may not even be the best path, as my Bell Labs experience taught me. The necessity of finding and designing engineering solutions to problems arising in a business often fosters research that can lead to new fundamental understandings. I was very fortunate in my career at Bell Labs and now at NJIT, as well as the numerous organizations, national and international, with whom I've collaborated, to be surrounded and stimulated by exceptionally talented, committed, and congenial colleagues, friends, and students. I thank them all for their friendship and collaborations. I'd like to offer a few historical comments and my dabblings in them on space weather, and then comment briefly on the Academy's responsibilities and roles and some advice to the National Space Program as a volunteers, as Chairman England talked about earlier this morning. In the mid-1840s, William Henry Barlow, superintendent engineer of the Midland Railway Company in England, measured spontaneous currents that disturbed the lines of the electrical telegraph that paralleled the rail tracks from Derby to Birmingham and Derby to Rugby. As a good engineer, and as recorded in his publication, he set up a special measurements to understand the phenomena, and as an engineer to potentially affect design changes and or mitigate around the currents. Barlow discovered that in every case that came under his observation, the telegraph needles, having been deflected whenever aurora had been visible. The complex processes that couple aurora to the telegraph lines were not by any means unraveled by Barlow's engineering investigations. but the investigations led to fundamental research that continues to today. I consider Barlow's investigations to be the inaugural study of space weather impacts on human technical systems, both engineering and scientific. In December 1901, Marconi's transatlantic radio feed opened a much wider bandwidth for telegraphic and later telephonic transmissions than long cables permitted. Marconi wrote that times of bad fading of radio signals practically always coincide with the appearance of larger sunspots and intense aurora borealis. He noted that these are the same periods when cables and landlines experience difficulties or are thrown out of action, as Barlow saw. The lesson is that since the development of electrical telegraph in the 1840s, space weather processes have affected the design, implementation, and operation of many engineered systems, at first on Earth and now in space. Arthur Clarke and John Pierce did not expect the space environment to be anything but benign when they proposed their Earth-circling communication satellites. Because of James Van Allen's discovery of intense trapped radiation around Earth, AT&T instrumented its Telstar 1 communication satellites with solid-state particle detectors to measure the environment Telstar traversed. The U.S. Starfish Prime high-altitude nuclear test occurred on July 9th, 1962, one of the last high-altitude tests. The day before Telstar's launch. Telstar's radiation detectors provided superb measurements of the artificial radiation belt produced by Starfish. Starfish also provided radiation that caused the demise of Telstar within 6 months. And the detectors provided data for me to analyze when I arrived at Bell Labs and began working on building space weather particle detectors for NASA's geosynchronous test satellites, ATS-1, ATS-2, and 2 NASA satellites circling Earth. A huge solar event in August 1972 produced ground currents that overwhelmed an AT&T powering system in Illinois. This outage had critical implications for both civilian and national security interests, and I participated for a number of years in wide-ranging briefings, including at the Pentagon and in other defense facilities. Analyses with colleagues of telecom and geophysical data from this event led to the important engineering design changes in cable powering systems. These engineering changes prevented further AT&T outages, including a near miss in the first transatlantic fiber cable from a solar event in March 1989. This was an event that brought down the electrical grid in Quebec and fried a large electrical power transformer at a nuclear power station in New Jersey. Bell Labs instituted a program for electrically monitoring at high precision key Atlantic and Pacific Ocean cables in the context of solar and geophysical conditions in order to contribute to national security and civilian purposes. I was asked in the mid-1970s to join the NASA Physical Sciences Committee, at the time the External Advisory Committee, it was at the time the External Advisory Committee to the National Associate Administrator for Science. At this time, there were resource pressures on NASA science. Aren't there always resource pressures? And the opening of research, space research, to a wider range of disciplines, which also provided resource pressures. The committee had many members who espoused the belief that studies of particles and fields in space around the Earth should be finished. NASA research resources should be best spent on other scientific topics. As the principal committee person in this allegedly obsolete research field, I was asked to make a presentation on the subject. My talk was equally divided to frontier areas of space plasma physics research and the practical implications, engineering implications of NASA's research in the field, past and the future. A Senate staff person was in the public audience and was apparently very taken with the practical and engineering applications of this research in NASA's program. As a consequence, I was asked to testify at a Senate NASA hearing. The eventual result, after a year of bureaucracy or more, was that the establishment of a division for this research area under the NASA Associate Administrator for Science, an area encompassing both fundamental science and its engineering applications. This unit continues to today in NASA. It's currently named the NASA Heliophysics Division. Going on to the National Academy's role, a couple of instances. External advice from the National Academy since the earliest days of the Civil Space Program had been incorporated in the Space Science Board, the SSB, and the Space Applications Board, the SAB, as well as in the Aeronautics and Space Engineering Board. When I was asked in 1988 by Frank Press, then president of the NAS, and by Bob White, president of the National Academy of Engineering, to chair the SSB, the Space Science Board, the demarcation between applications in engineering and science was becoming somewhat fuzzy for several space research disciplines, including microgravity research. With the SSB, I embarked on a year-long examination of the roles in the Academy of the SSB and the SAB. The result is the Space Studies Board of today, retaining the SSB acronym, which was very important for bureaucratic concerns, but now encompassing engineering and applications as well as science in those disciplines where such overlaps naturally occur, such as space weather, which I just spoke about. Finally, it's interesting to note the decision by the NASA administrator in January 2004 to forego the final Hubble Space Telescope servicing and the installation of new instruments caused consternation in the wider public arena, to say nothing of uproar in the astronomy community. Under an urgent congressional request, the National Academies formed a committee, which I was privileged to chair. The committee was to evaluate the scientific merits of continuing Hubble science should new instruments be able to be installed, and to assess the engineering challenges and risks of human servicing, versus doing nothing or having robotic servicing had been proposed as an alternative eventually by the NASA administrator and was being pursued actively at that time by the agency. The committee's intense work concluded that fundamental science imperatives for maintenance, servicing, and instrument upgrades were unassailable. However, Hubble was not designed for robotic servicing. Intensive engineering study of this option by the committee and its engineering participants and members demonstrated the difficulty and complexity of robotic servicing, if not the near infeasibility. The committee concluded that human servicing, using the extensive NASA experience with human flight, was feasible and should be pursued. Admiral Truly is in the audience, a member of the council, and he was a member of this committee. I presented the committee's results to the NASA administrator and several of his staff in a small NASA conference room on a quite cold, dark December 2004 evening. The administrator stopped listening after the third page, which presented the committee's recommendation that included human servicing. Accompanying me out of the very difficult briefing, where the administrator had not said more than a few words, the Associate Administrator for Science said to me, "Lou, you've just killed Hubble." Well, we all know now that Hubble, after human servicing and upgraded instruments, thrives today, continuing to produce astounding new scientific results, and as a result of the Academy's committee that the Academy formed of experts. In closing, I must acknowledge that my technical and volunteer contributions in engineering and science have been possible only because of the support and love of my wife, Mary Yvonne DeWolf. For the 52 plus years of our marriage, she's managed both to keep our family functioning and to pursue her parallel 40-year career as a PhD physical chemist, back in the days when there weren't many women PhD physical chemists. Her health problems in the past year have slowed her significantly, but her strong spirit and support continue. Again, I'm deeply grateful for being honored with the 2017 NAE Arthur M. Bika Award. Thank you.
Well, congratulations again, John and Lou, on your awards and your presentations. Both are really quite important to the entire Academy. We see a very rich history of the Academy in your achievements and in your thoughts. Well, that concludes our Rhema Founders Award and BICO Award presentations, and I congratulate everybody, and thank you, Andre, as well, for leading the awards committee.